hello, Seeker, and welcome back to the Sword of Truth podcast. Sit slowly back in chair without disturbing microphone. The alcohol-fueled chapter-by-chapter reread of the Sword of Truth series with a socially distanced drink on the side. I said it slow so I could get it through that time.
Nailed it.
I'm Nate.
And I'm Jaden. Today we're laying the plans for Chapter 32.
That's right, and that's as creative as we got, because that's basically what they do in this chapter.
I think it's so interesting that you called out the individual listening on this episode.
Why?
Because I feel like we've never done that before. We've spoken to the group as a whole and not to the individual. But you're right. Most of the time, it's just an individual that is listening. So we don't need to speak to them as a group.
We're just hanging out in their room, or their car,
in a tripod here.
Yeah.
They're just us three here.
So rest assured, listener, we can hear you. Whatever you say during the course of this podcast will be, fully, we got it.
Absorbed.
Here. It's like psychic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. They just disagreed with me, but okay.
Well, whatever, but interesting. I just thought that was an interesting take. It might blow my mind a little bit. It might change the way that I interact.
Well, they say
pod.
that you're supposed to talk to somebody, like you are talking to.
I'm
people,
talking to.
so...
I usually talk to you. I just
we kind of talk to each other, but
yeah.
we could talk to them too.
Yeah, I try. Sometimes I just forget.
What's up? How was your day? That's cool.
Or not. Probably not.
Or not. If not, sorry to hear that.
If you went to
that really
work,
sucks.
I'm sorry. You didn't? Well, but I'm glad you had a job. That's good, right? Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm bad at this.
We'll work on it.
Yeah,
We'll get back to you.
Yeah, we'll try again.
We're good at talking to each other.
Yeah. I'm real good at seeing facial expressions and understanding if I'm being too awkward. If I need to change course. Like this, right here. What's happening right now? We need to change course.
I got you. Okay, here we go. So, chapter 32 opens with Kahlan staring out the window at the snow, deep in thought. Just kind of hanging out, taking in the scenery, right? We know it's becoming spring, so winter is going away, but it's still cold.
Yeah.
So, behind her are Richard and Berdine. They are working on the journal. Richard is exhausted. Kahlan doesn't think he's doing much good. He is mainly just grunting at this point. Berdine's like when you show somebody your phone and you're like, check out this video. And he's like, yup. And that's what's happening here.
And Richard should go to bed at this, but I know that he's staying awake because he feels like he needs to be here for the meeting that he just called with his officers. But I really feel like he could maybe write down what he wants them to know and go take a nap.
Yeah. Well, yeah. At this point, and we'll get into it, but he does have a plan. He has a plan. He can say it definitively, but I think for Richard right now, it's more just he has to represent his end of the deal, which is being the Lord Rawl,
Yeah.
He's needed so many places that he can't sleep.
And again, I get it. The dude's gonna die eventually.
Yeah. I honestly think Richard could look to Anne or Verna right now because he's in a position of power, right? Just like the prelate.
Yeah.
Whereas, you would be crazy busy all the fucking time, but they had a system. There's no system here.
Delegate.
Richard is making the system, and so until it's all handled, it's all up to him.
Yeah. But
But yeah, you do need to take a break. You have to be able to balance.
Yeah, because here's the thing. If you're trying to approach, hey, I'm here and portray strength to these people, you can't do that if you're half dead because you're, tired.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you need your wits about you at a time like this, too. Well, behind her, nope, I'm sorry. Back further behind her are Dreffin and Nadine. Mm-hmm. They're over by the fireplace. Nadine is avoiding eye contact, and it's probably to hide that smug fucking look on her face.
Yeah, you know that she's over there, she's talking to Dreffin, but in her head, she keeps, going over what they just said, and she's like,
Yeah, and it's fucking with Kahlan a little bit. Because she knows this, right? She's like, she's not looking at me because when she does it, she's going to smile at me. And that fucking sucks. It's like she won.
Or she won't smile, but just enough to make Kahlan will know she wants to smile, but she can't smile.
A knowing look is just as bad as a grin sometimes. But that's what it is. She's convincing herself that no, she didn't win because even if Nadine wins, right, then everybody dies. And that's no good.
Yeah.
Right? She tries to reassure Richard that the wedding is only postponed, right? But ultimately, she's got no idea when it's going to be back on either. So she's trying to be like, hey, it's just temporary. But no, I don't have an endpoint for you. There's no light at the end of the tunnel right now. We've got a lot of shit to deal with.
Yeah. And, I mean, I get that he's, like, this is a big deal to both of them. It is.
Oh, yeah.
But I also feel like there's bigger deals at this point. So, yes, it's depressing, but okay, moving on. Like, it's one of those things like either we're doing it here or we're not, and we can't talk about it anymore.
Right. Well, yeah, like we said, just because you're postponing it doesn't mean the wedding's off.
Right.
We're just going to hang on for a little bit. I guess our last episode was called The Announcement, and I guess it stuck out to me because she didn't really need to do that.
No.
That really didn't serve any purpose. And I think it bothered me because it was like, you're still planning on it. You're still planning on it, so nothing has changed.
No, you didn't need to call anything off.
But maybe it just felt overwhelming, in that moment. And I could see that too.
Yeah. Well, I think it was also just dramatic for the book now. The wedding is called off.
Yeah.
And
oh,
they
yeah.
are, as per the book, like, yes, they are intending to get married, but as they are really not officially fianced anymore, because
yeah, now you broke up the fiance.
Yeah, now you're just boyfriend
Now
girlfriend.
what? Now you're just see, that is kind of a win for Nadine in a way.
Yeah.
So kind of handed that one to her, actually.
Yeah.
The more I think about it, don't do that.
Unless you're calling it postponed.
Yeah, postpone is way better.
Yes.
Well, everyone here in the room needs comforting. Even Berdine and Reyna, numb as they are with all their Mordsith training, they share a smile between each other, which is super rare, right? Nobody ever fucking sees any sort of affection between them.
I think there was even like a braid falling onto the other one's shoulder, and then the smile, like a slight, like they didn't actually touch, but it was like close to touching.
There was a moment there.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. It did make me think kind of like, are they not affectionate with each other? Because look, we know they're affectionate with each other. Okay. But are they just not PDA people? Or is it the fact that they're gay? That they're just not trying to be all up in front of everybody? Or is it just kind of a combination of all of it?
I think it's a combination of workplace / gay, just because of who they used to work for Darkin. If Darkin knew that the two of them were in a relationship at all, then he would use that against them. So
yeah, that makes perfect sense.
They hid anything that they could. They were never able to be free to do that. So they may be in early, like Berdine, I feel like would be a very PDA person. But I don't think
Berdine?
I don't think they've been free to do that with their lives as of yet.
No, it was a rule at their job, like you said. But being a Mord Sith is more than a job; it's a 24/7 thing. So this was just the way of life for them. Okay,
and Richard just barely was like,
he's cracking the surface now.
Okay, yeah, I guess that's fine for you.
Well, it's not shunned, I guess, is the important thing.
Right.
Even if they don't understand, it's not that they're not being affectionate with each other.
Right.
Because that would be a stupid fucking reason. I mean, a reason nonetheless, but you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it's not the disapproval of others that's making them behave that way. It's just the way life was.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, in that moment, Generals Curson and Baldwin enter the fucking room with all of their officers. I couldn't just let it go. Richard stands and waits patiently as all the greetings and the bowing happen. I had a different thought about this at the beginning of the chapter as opposed to the end. Right now, I'm like, all the officers and the generals are saying hello to each other. It's like when you go to church and then the pastor makes you stand up and just kind of welcome everybody around you.
Yeah, you kind of assume that everybody that was in the room mills around with the people who just came in the room.
Yeah. Or that the people that just came in the room had already said hello to each other.
Yeah.
It didn't even sound like that was a thing. Like,
No.
They all just got there. Everybody says hello. And Richard has no part of it. He just kind of stands and waits for them all to finish.
Yeah.
Berdine doesn't even bother looking up. She's busy with the journal.
That's kind of how she's been this whole book, though. Like,
Yeah.
face in the book.
It's like, it's very important. And everything Richard is talking about right now centers on the book. Like, all of his work is like, I need the book and I got to go to the keep. So Berdine is the one fueling Richard's, like, progress.
Mania, progress, whatever
And
you want
mania,
to call it,
right.
Because,
But yeah, I mean, you know, she's going as hard as she can.
yeah.
Because she has to. But
Yeah.
even she got sleep. So, like,
Yeah, 'cause
sleep.
that's because she started making mistakes. Richard doesn't make mistakes, Nate.
Well, he tells the men there that there's a plague in Aidendrill. One of the guys asks, what kind? And he's like, it's the kind that kills people.
The bad
The
kind.
bad kind. Yeah, the not good one. And, by the way, it's spreading. And we can take precautions, but as of right now, gentlemen, there is no cure.
Oh, and by the way, those precautions may not work.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Nothing he just said is going to give any of these men any sort of confidence.
To be
Like,
fair,
you know?
he doesn't tell them that the precautions might not work. He just says, we have precautions, but there is no cure. So,
Yeah, there's no cure. There is precaution. So I guess, you know, there is at least some hope there.
yeah, he does give them a little bit more hope than maybe they they should have, but that's fine.
He says that they think that it spreads from person to person, but it could be anything, even magic. He doesn't think that the spirits are doing this to the people because innocent kids are dying, and that would be really fucked up for like somebody who goes by the good spirits to do to people. So it's probably not that.
Probably not. I didn't mean to laugh right after you said innocent kids were dying. It was just the way you tripped on it that made me laugh a little. And then after I did, I was like, oh, that was bad.
Well, I wrote these notes. So like we were going to be like, all right, no more dead kids. And then right in there, I wrote it myself. I just can't get away from it.
Well, so
Of course, it was pretty much a solid point that was made in this chapter. I think it deserves to be brought to attention.
I gotta give it to Generals Curson and Baldwin, though, because Richard just told them, like, their worst fucking fear, and nobody in the room, like, lost their shit. Because he was like, it could be anything. Even magic.
Yeah, the
that
big
spreads it.
scary.
Yeah, and they're all terrified. These are Daharan soldiers. They are terrified of magic. So for him to be like, there's a death plague that's spreading around, and magic might be doing it, and I can't help you, is terrifying. And all the men are just
Yeah.
like, okay, okay, all right, noted. Keep going.
These are fucking Daharans.
Yeah.
That is something you're supposed to just know
Take it
about
straight.
these
All right.
guys. Yeah.
Okay.
To the most extreme extent, a Daharan soldier will do what is necessary.
Yeah. Hey, they were shitting their brains out, and they were still like, we want to fight. we literally can't.
Look, I would be so much rather be disemboweling my enemies than spilling mine back here on the bucket. But, you know, I got to take care of this before I can do that. I would much rather be doing that.
I will drink garlic blueberry tea all day long, sir. Thank you.
Well, he goes on to say that it's almost always fatal, so they have to act fast. He wants to separate the troops so they can still defend Aidendrill, but keep themselves safe too. Mm-hmm. So his idea is that, you know, we spread them all apart, and we will go into further detail here in just a little bit. But he wants to keep sections of the troops away from each other so that a disease doesn't spread among the army en masse.
Yeah. which makes sense.
Right. But this is shocking to most of the people in here because it's like, that's not how the army works, dude. It's all formations. You can't fuck with the formations.
Well, I think also because they're already kind of doing this, they're already kind of spread thin and spread out around the city because they have a smaller like arrangement. They're already kind of doing this and they're having to split even farther and go even farther out. So they're all like,
So it makes them good and uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Well, Curson has fucking figured it the fuck out. Curson asks Richard, dude, why can't you just magic it all away? You guys, right? Just do the thing. Whip the sword or whatever it is you do.
Didn't you made us stop pooping with your magic? And he's like, that was tea.
That was tea. Yeah, that was medicine, guys. That's way different.
Literally Pepto-Bismol.
So Richard has to explain that he just doesn't know how. Or honestly, if that kind of magic even exists. You know, wizards are not equal to the creator here. Now, they do command magic, but not totally. Not like the creator does. And he does give a couple examples. Example 1. These are a little out of order, but it's just so I could make the point. A wizard can't just create life, but a woman can. And we all know that's because all women are powerful. You hear that, fellas? Respect the magic. Motherfuckers.
And the vaginas.
And the vagina. Respect the vagina.
Yeah. Yep.
But that's what it is. Like, the creator has the power to just create. Now, we know with additive magic, you're taking something else that already exists and you're doing something to it to produce an outcome.
Again, the creator doesn't just create the baby either, though. A dude does some stuff inside
he does
of a
put
lady,
it in there.
And then,
well, that's why when Richard was talking about, a wizard can do things like marry a man and a wife, but he can't make them have a baby. And I was like, yeah, you can. Throw them some lube and put some berry on. Like, it's not that hard, man. They'll figure it out. But that's not exactly what he's talking about.
Yeah, I get it.
But the second example is just because you have muscles doesn't mean you can lift whatever you want. Like, yeah, I have magic, but I don't have enough or the right kind to be able to just wipe away a plague.
Yeah, I feel like maybe I feel like maybe had he slept a little better, he could have had it better, because he's kind of fooling all these people into thinking that he is a great and powerful wizard, right? He is.
I mean, I don't know if he's fooling them into it, but they believe that.
Yeah, and he's allowing them.
And he is, but he just doesn't have control of it. But yeah.
Yeah, and he's allowing them to believe that he has control over it. But then when this stuff happens where he's like, okay, there's a plague. Could be magic. They're like, oh, okay. You can't fix it with the magic? And he's like, no, I don't even know if that kind of magic exists. What? But the plague could be magic. Does that magic exist, Richard? Do you know? See, this is what's going to lead people underneath your rule to start being like,
to start questioning. I think he needs to explain to them that, look, I am still new at this magic thing. Okay? Yes, I am the one born. I'm fucking Neo. I am fucking the one. But even the one's got to read a couple of books to know some shit. So, like, I have to find it. I don't have it on hand. I'm not prepared for this. True. But I have a plan, and I'm going to fucking find the thing. That is my plan.
That's all I'm saying. If he was like, hey, I'm a war wizard, right? But that is not my expertise. Like, if he was able to explain to these people, like, hey, I'm a war wizard, that healing shit, not my bag. My grandpa could do that all day long.
Yeah.
But I am not that type of wizard. So you guys just got to bear with me a little bit.
Yeah. And I mean, we got to keep in mind that this is only the beginning of his address.
True.
So he is going to get into more.
True.
But he tells the men that they can't always rely on magic. Like, the answer is not always going to be, hey, Lord Rawl, make it go away. But in regards to magic, knowing your limits is crucial. You have to know what you can and can't do. Richard has the sword to fight evil, right? But he can't help with the fucking plague. He's like, you've all seen my sword. It's fucking badass. But I can't kill the plague without, like, stabbing a person, and even that doesn't do it. So, but Curson sees the logic here. He's like, all right, hey, I get it. You have your limitations. We all have ours. We're fucking terrified of magic. So, even Steven. But he says, in your wisdom, we are humbled. Which I thought was actually kind of cool.
Yeah.
Richard does go, no. It's not that. It's just common sense. But at the same time, I was just like, but dude, you were right. So let him give you that.
Yeah.
That's okay.
You can take one.
Well, and he promises the men that if a way exists, he will find it. Until then, they need to rely solely on common sense.
That's going to be tough for a lot of people, but they're going to have to try.
It's necessary. And,
yeah.
In fact, I think I'm going to rely on some common sense right now, too. I think it is time for the beer break. Bwah, 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 bwah. All right. Well, today I have a special treat for all of you. This one is called Brunch Cinnamon and Maple. It's a Michigan hard cider from Farmhouse Cider Company. And I almost want to say maybe I've tried this before, but I find it hard to believe that I've tried this beer and then forgotten it, because the second I took a taste, oh my gosh. It is a touch of maple and toasty cinnamon blended with 100% Michigan apples. The description is brunch. Like grandma's apple pie is always a good idea. Any time of day, any time of year. Holy shit, I agree. Let me find the percentage here. This comes in at 6.7%. So it doesn't disappoint. 1 gram of total sugar. Get this, gluten-free, vegan, a thirst for change, and ambition for better. Please recycle. So, like, it's the total fucking package. On top of that, decent percentage, great flavor.
Yeah.
Care you a try?
Sure. Yeah, it's pretty good. I'm not a huge cider person usually, but that one you can drink for a little while.
That's fair. Okay.
I'm drinking a Founder's Porter, but we've had that on here before.
Oh, yeah.
I also don't have a label, so.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Living on the edge there with your labelless beer.
Yeah, I just found it.
We don't like labels here.
But then I could tell
We judge it by the beer.
with my tongue that it was a Founder's Porter. Anyways, we'll be back right after this.
All right, and we are back for the remainder of Chapter 32. How are you? How's the chapter so far? You guys like it? Did you not like it? Oh, yeah? Remember, we can hear them. Oh,
You don't
yeah.
have to tell me that because
I totally agree.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. Fuck. Well, I tried.
Well, listen. I understand. This chapter, you probably feel the same way I feel about this chapter, right? We already knew the plan, kind of. This could
Yeah.
Let's just get to the next one.
What was that?
No. Something like that. The soldiers.
That's when you know you're born to be a podcaster, Jade. When you don't even have to use words on an audio medium to get your point across. You're just like, yeah, you know.
They get it.
Yeah. All right. Well, here is the plan. They are going to separate the men, and they are going to get them outside of town. This is what he mentioned earlier, but now he's going to go into a little more detail.
Mm-hmm.
not too far away from each other, right? Because they still need to be able to form a sort of wall of defense against any sort of attacker. But not too close together because they don't want to be able to get each other sick. They'll post extra sentries in between and a little bit farther out the rim of the city to ward against sneak attacks, because they definitely don't need anybody sneaking in while they're separated. It would be way easier for them to get through.
Yeah.
Potentially without even being detected. Then you got a fucking problem.
Yeah. So like, how far you guys want to be like you could throw a stone at the next person. Like the strongest person you have could probably hit somebody in the X camp with a stone, but you can't spit at the camp and hit it.
Right.
Somewhere in that general area.
I think what he's talking about is having groups of men.
Yeah.
So you're in a group. You're not just by yourself out there.
No, I know. But that's what I'm saying. The strongest man in your group could probably huck a rock at the next group and hit it. That, you're probably that distant. Like,
yeah, I could see that.
But not like the biggest dude or the best spitter probably couldn't spit that far.
True. That's true.
That's probably how far you want that next group.
At least, yeah.
Yeah.
Far enough to know you're safe, close enough to know you're safe.
Right.
And not getting spit on.
Right. No coughing will go to the cloud of cough won't go over to the other
won't
camp.
Reach that far.
Yeah.
Well, he also asks the men for any ideas they might have here, because that's why you're here. Because otherwise I could just tell your bosses all of this. But I like this because Richard is like, hey, we're going to talk to, okay, obviously we don't have the grunts here, but like these are everybody. This is high, middle, and low management, right? These are the guys who are going to go directly speak to the troops in every faction of them. Mm-hmm. So they're all here, and he needs the ideas from them. Although he's not asking for ideas from the soldiers, which could vary, could be really good answers, really rough answers, but these are the guys educated in war.
To be fair, the soldier, like at this point now that he's asking for these people's input, if these people take stock in their people's input.
Yeah, that's true.
I think the point of this is that over the last few chapters, we've seen different people from different walks of life either not see the plague at all or have different instances with it. Like Richard, Nadine, they have no idea. They've never had contact with it. Kaylin's never had contact. She's gone to a whole bunch of different places in the world. Never fucking seen plague. Dreffin has. That old motherfucker, he's seen it. A couple of other people that we've talked to have seen it in one or two lands. So, if he talks to all these officers from different parts of Dahara, and they talk to their soldiers, he is effectively crowdsourcing as best he can through, a wide amount of people. Like, these people are coming from all over.
That is
true. Part of the art, like, not all over, but all over Dahara. Those boys were recruited.
At the very least, he is canvassing a huge amount of people.
Basically, yes.
Very quickly.
Yes.
In the most efficient way possible.
Yes.
No, I totally agree.
Like
I guess
70% of them maybe never have seen it or never heard of it, but 10% maybe have seen it with their own eyes, and 20 maybe had a mom or dad deal with it or grandpa.
But of the men in the army who have dealt with it, those people are going to talk about it.
Yes.
And if this guy is now concerned with that, they probably would have talked about it to him.
And
this is the guy going to see Richard. Yes. Right. So, but yeah, that makes this a good idea. That's the reason that they're here, so they can get all of this information out to everybody and get all the ideas up to Richard as fast as possible.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of fast, Dreff says no matter what we do, it has to be fast. And any of the men that went with them today, oh, by the way, you guys got to stay here now because you might actually be infected already. None of these plans concern you because you will be here.
Yeah, you didn't sign up for that, but you did. I liked, just as he was saying that, like right before that line came in the book, I was like, except for the people who went today, right? And then it was said, and I was like, okay, all right, yeah, they know. They know.
Except if you were within breathing range of a fucking zombie kid.
Yeah, today.
Then maybe no.
Yeah.
You're going to hang here.
Yes. And then my next consequent thought leads into our next note here.
Which is?
Richard says the army will communicate verbally and at a distance only, like they are now. Which means that during this whole meeting, anybody who was already in the room, anybody who was already exposed, I'm assuming, stayed at one end of the room, and everybody else came at the other. So at the beginning, when they were all greeting and saying hello and doing the bows, that was not a, physical handshake between any of our main characters or soldiers that were with them today.
No, it was like bows to Richard and Kahlan and stuff. Richard did not participate in any of the greeting, and this is what I was talking about earlier.
Yeah.
At first I thought it was he's like, hey, either one, bored with the fact that now they have to do all these official greetings because Richard doesn't really roll that way and it's stupid, or two, more intent on the fact that there's a plague and is not concerned with the formalities of being royalty, or three, just didn't want to. I guess
and I think all of that.
He's tired. He's in a bad mood. Fuck all these people. It's just, but that's not what it was. He was being smart through all of this. He didn't do any of the greeting stuff because he could have been exposed.
Yeah. So 6 feet.
It just, it blew my mind because at the beginning of the chapter, I was like, Richard being Richard. And then now I was like, oh shit, he was being smart as fuck, which makes me question all the shit we give him for being tired and hallucinating.
Well, maybe he actually, to be fair, to be fair, everybody is on the side of the room, but he still could have given some type of greeting. So he may have still been being Richard in that moment.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But we do know that they're being socially distant. They can't there's not going to be any passing notes between the groups of soldiers or anything. They don't want any type of exposure passing through. You got to just yell at each other from a distance.
Yeah, because they don't know what it is that spreads it exactly.
Zoom meetings only.
They know it goes from person to person, but we're not talking about like our experience with COVID where they're like, dude, don't fucking cough on each other because it's in your spit. So if that gets spread around through the air, then it spreads. It could very well be spread by touch too, on your fingers or different. So that's why they don't know this yet. So they're like, no notes. It's got to be verbally. You got to stay away from each other.
To be fair, even with COVID, if you still we would use we still do, but hand sanitizer after you touch somebody's
wash
cards
your hands
and stuff. Because if they coughed on their card and passed it to you, you could die. Not 100%. Die, but get sick, But yeah, that's the idea here. They don't want to do any of that kind of stuff. But it was just very interesting to me. I'm like, socially distanced.
Yep. All of it's there. It's all in there. It's just so crazy to me that it's all in there.
Yeah.
Even this guy, one guy thinks that it might be too much. Richard says that in non-symptomatic people, you can tell they're sick by smelling their breath. But if you smell their breath, then you'd get sick and probably die too. And look, there's no point in doing anything if we're not paying attention to details, people. And if we don't, everyone might die in a few fucking weeks. So, hey, details matter.
Also, even if it is too much, listen. Okay, these were just kids. We saw a lot of kids die. We didn't see any adults die. I get if you don't have a kid, maybe that doesn't pull your heartstrings. But maybe as a man, what will pull your heartstrings is that one of those children had a rotting penis.
God.
Okay? Do you want to come over here, give me a hug, and risk having a rotting penis, or would you like to go ahead with my precautions? Cool. Thanks, Davey. How about you shut the fuck up?
That's what it is. Richard looks all of these men dead in the eye and says, look, dicks are rotting off. Take this fucking seriously, man. You don't want that to happen. And then like, fuck no. Like, okay, then let's do some precautions, shall we?
Yeah.
They're like, and they are all in 100%. No questions asked.
Yeah, that's as you would be.
I mean, you really don't have a choice at that point. Like, what? that's just instinctual to me as well. Like, no, I'm definitely gonna follow orders right now.
Too much or not, I don't care. Give me more.
I'm going over too much.
Yeah. Can I have 2 helpings of too much? Thank you.
Dreffin does cut in here though, and he goes, look, this is worst case scenario we're talking. The weather is on our side. Usually it's harder for a disease to spread in cold weather, and the men do seem relieved at that. Like, we have some sort of an advantage, you know?
Yeah.
But Richard wants to make a point. He says, look, we are Daharans. We're Daharans who act with honor. No one is to downplay the danger or cause a panic. Riots will be put down with only the force necessary and no more. We are their protectors and not their wardens. Yeah, I thought that was really, really interesting. I mean, obviously, we're not going to go too deep into this, but yeah, there were a couple of different planes of thought when COVID happened. You know, you had the people that wanted to be more cautious, and then there was people that wanted to be less cautious. And I think this was a really good way of saying, look, too much of either one is not good. One is safer, but too much of either is not good.
And here's the thing.
There could be extremes on both ends.
The riots that happened weren't necessarily, like, COVID was a
Due
thing.
To that, yeah.
Ugh. Anyways.
Yeah, no, I know.
But
I know. That is a separate thing. We're not talking about that right now.
I just want to say that I feel like typically this shouldn't be a controversy. Like, the idea is always supposed to be only the force necessary, right? No
yes,
more.
That's the key.
But there's all. You know what? Not even gonna. We're just gonna move along. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, no, look, I know that there could be a whole thing. And you know what? We probably will do something on Patreon because it came up. I feel like it's worth talking about. But I think what needs to be said here is that this is the ideal coming from who we believe to be a good person, right? Nobody wants rioting. Nobody wants the consequences of that, I guess. And they can't just let it go on, so something has to be done. But I feel like the ideal notion is that you put an end to the chaos and you try not to hurt people in the process. I think that's what it is, because ultimately he says, we're their protectors, not their wardens.
Yeah, that is supposed to be the idea.
Yeah, and I mean, if somebody's doing something illegal, the course of action is to bring them into court, right? And so you can't do that if they're dead.
Yeah.
I guess is the thing. So yeah, force may be necessary, and I'm not disagreeing with that. But like, you really have to mind only the force necessary. I feel like that's very important, and I'm happy that Richard had that in here because it is common sense.
I agree. And I agree that any further thoughts will probably be on the Patreon.
Yeah, that's fine.
Patreon, not on the Patreon. I will not put it on any of you. It'll be on me on the Patreon.
But if you choose to go there, then there it will be.
That's where it'll be.
Well, he also goes on to say that we are going to need guys to dig graves. How many graves? Dreffin says thousands, tens of thousands, maybe even more. Dreffin read of a plague that killed 3. Okay, here it is. 3 out of 4 of 500,000 people.
Which is crazy.
And I read that and listened to that like 3 more times. And I was like, this is simple math, Nate. Why didn't he just say it's 375,000? By the way, why didn't he just say something like that?
I think I now seeing the way you've written it out, I think for one of two reasons.
It killed 3 in 4 of a town of 500,000 people.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. Part of it is his thinking as a healer was that this is a town of that many people.
Okay.
And it killed 3 out of 4 of those people. So, like, in his head, that is how he sees the amount.
He sees the town as a whole.
Yes.
Yeah. And I suppose that's really not a bad way to go about it either.
Or,
I won't give him shit for that.
Or just the fact that 375,000, although it's a large number, that's a lot of people.
The zeros, man. You see all the zeros and it kind of hits home for me.
But it doesn't sound as large as when you say 500,000 people. Your brain kind of drops that 3 out of 4. Like, you don't really do the math in your head. You just see, most of 500,000 people. That's a lot of people.
That's good enough for most people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I can see that. I was just like, why is he giving me a math problem? It's bad and it's scary. You don't need me to do math to get to the scary.
Yeah, this is the scary, okay, so the way that Richard was just like, we're being brutally honest. Here's that brutal fucking honesty.
Yeah.
A lot of people are going to die, and also we need people to dig great. Hey, you know what, though? Jobs just opened up.
Oh, God. And, I mean, I think what it is... is this is them telling them the worst case scenario. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? They're like, yeah, we're talking about a handful of people right now, but it's not going to stay a handful of people. It's going to scale up, and it could scale up that far. We have to be prepared for that now.
What's so crazy to me
yesterday
is that
2 weeks ago,
in my head, I'm aware Aiden is a giant-ass city, okay? Like, I have that abstract thought in my head, but we've only seen the palace and then, like, Stenter Street. And then now...
Good old Stenter Street.
Good old Stenter Street. And then now, like, some of the impoverished homes over on, I don't know, the west side or whatever. But, so the town doesn't seem as large, like... It seems like a town to me in my head. So when they're talking about numbers like 500,000 people, I don't know that
seems crazy.
Yeah, I don't know that that's the amount of people in Aiden, but I'm assuming it's closer to that number than what I'm assuming it is in my head, because in my head, it's like one fucking street, Stenter Street, which has all the businesses and then the palaces and then the Confessor's Palace, and then you got the poor hovels over to the side. And that's fucking Aiden.
Like, there's just 4 of them, and then a huge city wall.
Yeah, like, it's literally, it's not giant. It's not huge in my head, because it's just, that's all we've seen of it.
I think Aiden feels big to me, but here's the thing. If he would have named off a bunch of different streets, it would have just been lost. You know, that's too much detail.
I agree.
We know Stenter and we everything happens on Stenter.
Yeah.
But so I think he kind of had to risk making the city seem small to get the details that we're getting out of it. If that makes sense?
No, it totally does. And I could see the Stenter Street very clearly in my head. And I'm also aware that Stenter Street and the street with the palaces and the people where the poor people, like, these are all separate places. Okay?
Yeah.
But in my head, when I think of Aiden, it's like one long ass road all the way up to the palace.
Right?
And that's it.
The driveway of castles, and you're there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I do the same thing, but it's like you're zooming in, you're already past the city. You know, think Agrabah. You're in that part of town where all the bigger buildings start and they're getting closer to the palace.
Yeah.
When you zoom in for the movie, you don't start with like that side of town. You start with a big shot of the castle.
Yeah.
And coming in from there.
Which I guess just speaks to because our lens is from, you know, Richard and Kahlan, and that's
right.
The amount of Aiden that they actually see. So it kind of lets you know how disconnected from all of the citizens of this town that they actually are, because like we see through their lens, so we don't actually see most of it, so they don't actually see most of it. So they can't actually think about or connect with all of those fucking people because we don't. Like, we know that they exist, but that's it.
That's actually pretty incredible. I've never really thought of it like that before.
That's how rulers are.
That is what they are seeing of the city. They are seeing the same as we're seeing.
Yeah.
Wow. Points for you.
Hey, thanks.
That's really good.
Thanks.
All right, well.
I worked on it for all of 2 seconds while I was saying it.
You're just that smart. He says some people will want to get away from the city. He says they can go into the forest if they want, but they can't go any further. They don't want to spread it to another city because then, oh, fuck, let's not even worry about that yet if we can help it. But
everyone's quarantined.
that's why we are staying here. Force here can also be used as a last resort and if necessary. But remember, these are not malevolent people. They just want to be safe.
Just like with it was the Black Plague, right? With the boats?
Yeah.
We learned about that on Patreon.
100%. The boats. Yeah, they any ships that were coming into the city, they'd make them stay just on the fucking boat for like 40 days. First it was 30, and then 40, which is the quarantine. I don't remember the wording exactly, but it's the
quarantine
the
arena.
For quad. 40 days was long enough to ensure that nobody on there was sick. And that was really interesting. They would let some of their product like go rotten and shit on the boats just to make sure that it didn't have the plague in it.
Better to have rotten fruit than rotten people.
I agree.
I think that's just a flat out true statement. I don't think you know that Reddit
Rotten fruit is better than rotten people.
That Reddit the subreddit technically the truth. I feel like that belongs on there.
You could post that on there.
Yeah.
I'll bet everyone would agree.
Yeah.
Well, remind them. He goes on to say that you have to remind these people who are leaving the city that they want to take food and supplies with them because they're going to be living out on the outskirts of town. They're not going to be able to come back. Well, not that I don't think they wouldn't let them, but they're choosing to be out there, so they're not going to come back.
This isn't going to take like 3 days. Okay.
Right. We are bunkering down. So
you need to take your whole stash of toilet paper, all of your canned goods.
Yeah,
I don't know how you're going to carry it, but
you're living out there now.
You better take it all.
All your shit.
All your shit.
Because Richard wants them warned that looting will not be tolerated. Don't come sneaking into somebody's backyard and taking all their shit because you don't want to live in town. That's not their fault. It's not their problem. And
they're allowed to shoot
fair.
You.
Yeah. If you're leaving your stuff behind, then don't take somebody else's. I mean, to me, this is just like, hey, yeah, you left the town, but the town's still there. Your fucking house is still there. You're going to have to take a risk. You're going to have to go into town. You're going to have to go into your house and take all of your stuff.
Yeah.
But also, if you are outside of the town and not at your house, Richard is also saying, hey, nobody's going to be stealing your shit either. You leave your house, you close your door, that's going to stay that way until you return. Now, he's not necessarily guaranteeing it, but he's saying, look, I'm also going to punish people coming in and breaking your shit.
Yeah, well, it's just you go out into the woods.
Taking it.
If your family goes out and lives in the woods, you're also not making money. So eventually you're going to rot. It's going to cause an issue, which is your choice, but you're going to have a problem eventually.
Yeah, that's true. Of course, I don't know. I mean, back here, are we talking house payments? Or do you just build your house and then live in it? I guess it depends. Maybe, closer up towards the castle or the palace, you probably have something more like that. When you're living out on the outskirts of town, it's just like, no, this is my shack, man. I built it. This is where I live.
I think at the very least, if you don't have your own farm, you're paying for food. So at the very least.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You still need a job. You need money.
Yeah. You're going to run out of whatever the fuck you got. So.
Unless you are like Richard and can live off the land.
Mm-hmm.
That's why skills like that are important. Well, we are going to take just a quick break, and we will be back right after this. And we are back for the final moments of Chapter 32, Temple of the Winds.
Bum, bum, bum.
Well, Richard says that's it. Are there any questions? There are two. When you leaving and where you going? And Kahlan apparently drops a bomb when she says that they are staying right here.
Oh, no.
Gasp.
Oh, my God.
Rabble, rabble, rabble.
They?
But look, it makes sense. Richard needs to find a cure, and he's got to get into the keep to do that.
Now, the soldiers weren't. The reason that they were thinking they were leaving wasn't for the wedding.
No, it was to get the hell out of town.
Yeah, to quarantine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, I mean, he does say that. He's like, look, I have stuff to do. I'm no good just sitting out in the woods somewhere. I got to be here running shit. All of us here are possibly exposed as it is. So I've got my team here. I have Nadine. I have Dreffen. So, like, we've got the medical thing covered. We'll look after us. I'm just telling you guys what you need to do out there.
Yeah. Post haste.
While I look for a cure, a magic, maybe not even a cure, while I find a magic something to do something with.
Yes. Hopefully.
Hopefully, yeah. Well, all the guys kind of, go and they start figuring out details and shit. Kahlan goes back to staring out the window. She sees Richard as a commander rallying his troops before a battle. He's trying to, harden them for the gosh, what's the word to use here? The suffering.
It's like a coach trying to rally a team.
Yeah.
When he's like, we're gonna take a beating, okay? We're gonna get beat really hard this game, okay? We might still come out okay, but it's gonna hurt.
I love the way you said that. Like, look,
it's gonna hurt a lot.
Look, we haven't won a game all season.
Yeah.
Okay, they've been wiping the floor with you for the whole year.
Yeah,
and they're gonna do it again tonight.
Yeah,
they will. It's gonna be bad.
but we might be able to get a couple shots in.
You pull your short shorts up.
We might.
Gosh. Yeah, coach. Fuck. Well, Kahlan knows the cold is not going to help them. She knew the plague was caused by magic, and she knows why. Jala de Jinn, the game of life. Okay. You know what? I'm going to say this before I read this because holy shit. You know what? I have always said that Darken Rahl was a really good bad guy. He's really easy to hate. And until now, all of the shit that Jagang has been described to us as obviously a horrible piece of shit. This is the thing that really has me going like, fuck this guy. Okay. Jagang was mad at Richard. That Richard, right, changed the game so all the kids could play. Now ask yourself, who were the first to die? Those kids. The kids that were now able to play Jala because Richard made it, safe for everybody, were the first kids to die of a plague because this was no accident. This was a fucking message. Holy shit.
I know it's really sad. Getting hit with a original style Jala ball would probably have been an easier way to go out.
Then have your dick rot off?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would have been a lot quicker.
Gosh. I mean, I can't even talk. The villainy. Fuck that guy.
Yeah, it's not great. Here's my thing. Kahlan knows the cold isn't going to help them because it was started by magic. My question is just, I mean, obviously there's no answer to this question because we don't really know. But we know that the plague was started by magic. Okay?
Yeah.
I guess I just thought that at some point, like, in my head, it was started and, like, it infected these kids at a rate that was like, you're like 2 weeks in to your plague. Bam. But then I just feel like at that point, once you get like 1 or 2 of those kids, 3, you don't need to do a whole lot more. Like, magic doesn't even need to be involved anymore. Like, it could be a natural thing from that point.
Oh,
because of all the touch
just
points.
Started the plague.
Yeah. Like,
but then it's just gonna. Well, we feel like it was accelerated at least. I think that's something we talked about. So maybe the plague like gave it a push.
Yeah,
but then it's the fucking plague, so it does what the plague does.
Yeah, instead of the 20-day incubation period, obviously it was like 3 days, and then they're fully advanced into the plague here. But I just feel like once you have those kids being the center, like, it's not just one person you have Kip, right, who was our patient 0.
Right.
But when Kip was already patient 0, there was already 4 or 5 other kids who were already sick. We just didn't know about them.
Right. That's true.
So when you have 5 patient 0s all with a web outside of them, I feel like, yes, magic could be helping spread it, but I feel like you don't even need to add that layer.
Yeah, like it's not even necessary. Well, you think of the 6 degrees of separation?
Right.
You are 6 people away from any other person. So, I mean, I think a lot of people use that to connect themselves to celebrities. Turns out works for diseases too.
Well, or just when you think
6 people and you could get it from anywhere in the world.
When you think about all the things that you touch in a day, and then all the things or all the people who touch the things after you touch them, and then what they touch, like, if you just follow like one item from your day and think about how many people have touched that and what they then went on to touch, there you go.
Yeah.
If one person touched that item in the very beginning of the day and was sick, it's a chain reaction. Every fucking person is sick from there. And those kids are kids, so they probably dragged their fingers along everything on their way home. They were happy. They were having a great time.
Spread the boogers everywhere.
They were partying on the way home.
Yeah, hell yeah.
They were yelling. They were screaming. They were flapping around.
Grabbing each other, lifting each other up. They were in close quarters.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man. Now that whole scene where they're like, fuck yeah, we're the best. And yeesh.
Yeah.
That was the worst thing ever.
Yeah.
But also the last happy moment they ever had.
Exactly.
Fuck Jagang for getting a bunch of innocent kids sick with the plague in the worst possible way.
Yeah, he's not great.
It's with this. It is with this that he surpasses Dark and Raw for me. For sure. Like, obviously, there's been plenty of reasons why it could be argued that Jagang was worse to begin with, but now I hate him way more.
Yeah, I guess
what it is.
It's more Darkin did it to one boy in a very personal way.
Yeah, we heard of others, but
yeah,
it was Carl.
Yeah.
Damn it, Carl. But yeah, that I think about wraps it up for us for today.
Tight little bow.
I don't have anything smart to say to that. I thought, and then my brain went, no.
Nah.
I am worn out on all of the death. But thank you guys for listening so much. If you enjoyed this episode, you can let us know by writing in your journey books to podcastatt ch.32@gmail.com, or finding us on any of our social medias, mainly Facebook. Or if you want to support this podcast directly, you can by going to patreon.com/podcast
ATT
and making a pledge of any amount. If that ain't your deal, you can always subscribe to this podcast, which you should have done anyways. But then you could leave us a rating. It would be really, really appreciated. It helps other people find this podcast. All right.
Right?
I'm about to go get another one of these ciders. I'm not even fucking around. Those things are delicious.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you real soon.
Bye.